Mr. Dunn, can you open us up with a prayer, please?
Absolutely. Dear Lord, I ask you to come before us today to, first of all, give everyone here safe passage going home. I pray that you will watch over us as we are encountering a great deal of hate in our country, and I ask for healing. I also ask, Lord Jesus, that you give us the right information, the right knowledge, and the way to make decisions and hear out both sides so that we can make really good decisions for the citizens of the community. And we just want to thank you for being in our lives. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you. We need a motion to approve the agenda.
I have motion approved.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Approval of the minutes.
I was not here, so I can't.
Okay. Need a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll approve them with the corrections that Mr. Poss pointed out earlier.
Yeah, we'll just, in the minutes, it stated you were here last meeting, and we've
Well, I
already.
didn't hear on there at all.
Okay,
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
so, with
All
that, so
With corrections made, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. Anybody from the public wishing to speak? I think everything we're gonna talk about is gonna be on the agenda, so. Of course, old business, discussion of current funding situations of the volunteer fire departments. I'll just open the floor for whoever wants to start. You want to start?
I can start, I guess. Mr. Nunn will catch you up just a little bit from what we talked about last month. We went through quite a bit, honestly. The biggest thing was, I know the county commission in some of our budget meetings has asked us to look into going to a different funding model outside of donations from the county. One of those being going to a subscription-based, and one of them to a utility-based. Real quick summary of those two things. A utility base means that we would ask for a utility company inside of the county to add a fire fee onto their bill that would be distributed to citizens who live in the county area alone, not any citizens. And they would charge a certain fee. That fee would be returned to the fire departments, and that's where our funding would come from. And that's real low level, real high level thoughts out there. The other one is a subscription-based model, to where each fire department would send out a letter to their homeowner that states we would ask for a donation of, we'll just give a number of $200 a year. If you pay this fee, then if we respond to your house for any reason, there will be no additional fees incurred. If you do not pay this fee and we do have to respond to your home for whatever reason, there will be a itemized bill that will be sent to your address. And then the normal funding structure that we have now, the more of the nonprofit donation. I did a lot of research over the past 6 weeks about these two models especially. And I don't know everything about them. I do know utility-based companies or utility-based fire departments in the state of Tennessee. There's only two out of everybody, and that's Blount County and somewhere in here's the other one. But anyways, I'll find it in a minute. Blount County and a second one who do that. Subscription models, there's a few more out there, but there's not that many who do it fully subscription-based and 100% no funding from anywhere else. The issue with utility-based for us is we have, at this moment, 8 volunteer fire departments in this county. For us to become utility-based, it would mean a merger, that everybody would have to become one fire department. We would have to find a county-wide billing company or a county-wide utility that would take on our fee and be able to redistribute that, which we don't have. We don't have any utility that goes to all the county residents that we could grab onto. So there'd have to be multiple. And there's nothing there's no state law that requires a utility company to pick up our billing. There's no state law that requires they have to keep it. So if just say White House Utility District decided one day that they don't want to do it anymore, they didn't want the responsibility, they could stop, and there's nothing else in the White House that would pick up after. So it'd be very difficult, and I would go to say almost impossible to go that route. Subscription-based, the problem with it, and again, in my opinion, looking at it, is again, to ask for a donation from a homeowner, there's no reason they have, oh, there is a reason, but there's nothing we can do if they do not pay us. If all citizens decide not to pay us, we'd have no money. If we even got half of the citizens to pay, which is about average, at any time they could stop paying. If we do respond to their home for a structure fire and we charge them a couple $1,000s, whatever the going rate would be, we have no incursion if they don't pay. We can't put a lien on a house unless we become, well, we can't do it as we sit today as far as I'm aware. And I talked to CTASC about that today, matter of fact, and he said he knows the law very well and he doesn't know a way that we could do that. And then that also becomes a problem that we become a for-profit business at that point. And when you do that, you lose out on your FEMA grants. Now there are, there's things out there, but FEMA is 90% of our grant funding. And anytime you become profitable, then you lose that opportunity. In both cases, it's going to become a financial hardship on the department, because to keep up with who is donating, how much money comes in, which houses are covered, which aren't, where utilities are coming from, all the different things, you're going to get into chief officers and secretaries and treasurers, and it's going to cost us a lot of money just to get the ball rolling and to keep up with this stuff. So where right now we have low overhead because it's all volunteer employment for the most part, well, 100% of the employment, then you're going to start hiring people to do stuff. And then that's where you do start to become, a profitable business, and it becomes a bigger headache than somebody wants to do for free. So that's a real high level of it all and kind of where we are. I would say that from the conversation I had today with the gentleman from CTASC and the conversations I've had for the past month, what I'm kind of discovering is...
Your conversations are with CTASC?
I have had some with
Last
CTASC,
month, okay.
yes. And multiple other places. I've called the fire chiefs of some places who do this, and just fire departments from all over the county, over the state. From what I'm gathering, volunteer fire departments are hurting all over the state and country as a whole. In the state of Tennessee specifically, there's not a lot of laws that really protect what we do and protect the county from what we do. So instead of this being a lot about funding, which is, I know why we're kind of all here to figure out the future of funding in this fire department, in this county, I'm going to recommend something that we start concentrating on what is the future of the fire department in Sumner County. Because honestly, the direction that the county commission and that y'all want to go with the fire department as a whole will determine a lot of the rest, and how the funding comes, how you'd be willing to do it, and how much funding you think we're going to need. Because that'll determine what services you want us to provide. So I think that's going to be a bigger part of it, honestly.
How much did each station or each department ask for this year?
This year we didn't ask per station. We asked for a
Blanket?
blanket. Did I print out the wrong one? Just blame it. We asked for a blanket, $1,023,000. And it's a good possibility. I printed off the wrong funding formula. That's a $2 million one. You didn't want that one. But the way we had it figured was a formula based that took into account how many your station, whether you had a county owned station, but mostly took into account what your ISO rate was, what the home values you protected was, and then the square mileage that you covered.
Now, how did you
How did I create the formula?
come up with the 1,023,000?
What I did was I took.
Was there anybody from the commission that was in on this?
No, it was us as
assist
a
you, or-
group.
Okay.
What I did, I took a funding formula. It looks like this with the wrong total on the bottom. And I've sent y'all multiple emails with this on it through budget and HES meetings. But we took a funding formula that Robertson County has been using for a long time. So that was the basis of it, that CTAS created back in 1997. So this is a CTAS formula, and I took it to fit Sumner County. I made it to where the lowest department that was represented, which was a lot of your single stations like Shackle Island and number ones, who only got $24,000 in most years. Well, all years, because they only have one station. And I made it to where they at least doubled. And then I just worked the numbers around to a goal that I had. So my goal was for us to be able to pay to double our amount that we were getting, which was $450 in total, which would have been $900,000, and then add in the extra radio fees and a little bit of extra for honestly negotiations. I figured if I asked for $1 million, maybe we'd get $900,000. And I made the formula fit that using, and I had to bring it down a whole lot. Just for example, that's where this number came from. Was in Robertson County, we asked for $350 per $1 million of property valuation, which I did that number and used the exact same. I think it was 175 per square mile. So we didn't get paid for open land, really. We got paid for the 350 was per just the home itself, improved property values, and then the 175 was the square mileage. That's just the zone that you covered. So I took those numbers, run them through Sumner County's formulas after this year's evaluation, property tax assessor, and I got $2.8 million. Well, I knew that wasn't going to happen. So I lowered it down to about $125 per million, and then I think the square value went down to $75 or $50 per square mile. I lowered it down quite a bit to get to that magic $1 million, which ended up being $1,023,000, was as close as I could get.
Which is bare minimum of what you need for a countywide fire department.
For what we're doing, it would have been a major increase.
It would.
In the way we're doing things. So no, would that have fixed us long term? It depends on what kind of services you want. With all the inflation, with as far behind we are in fire trucks and capital projects, it would have got us a big step forward.
I know your apparatus and stuff you're needing in certain places, but a lot of the buildings that's going to be housing these apparatus are not sufficient.
Correct.
To house those. That's a problem. So
It is.
$1,023,000 is not going to even cover that. Yes, sir.
Yeah, just.
When you say-
Man.
We need to suspend the rules.
Okay. Motion to suspend the rules.
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
Second, yeah.
Motion is second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Go ahead.
I'm Wayne Drown from Oak Grove Community Fire District. The million's probably not minimum. It's just trying to move it up enough that the county's not gonna, commission would work with us. I mean, if we started putting a plan together, there's a number of things. You talk about stations. When you look at ISO ratings, the first thing that they look at is a fire station within 5 road miles of the residence. And that's where you come up with these dual ratings, is that and fire hydrants, is that if they're outside of the fire 5 miles, then they get the higher rating. If they're within, so one thing that the departments need to do is, that don't have it, which is Oak Grove, the more rural ones, is to get a station within 5 road miles of the residence. Now, with mutual aid and all, we can count stations in other districts and all, but still, when you're like Oak Grove covering 62 square miles, we have one station. We have a large number of the population that's beyond that. We probably to get a biggest majority of our population need 2 more stations. So that's something we should have been looking at it before now. Because there's a lot of growth there. I don't have the numbers, but one thing that is probably an immediate planning need is to try to get as many residents as we can within 5 miles of the fire station. Then, of course, you put a new fire station in, you gotta put equipment in it. So, so when you start talking about, and right now, we can't, as far as Oak Grove, we can't look at, even think about putting an actual station somewhere else. We're still trying to get the trucks we have in the station, which.
Well, my concern is on a lot of these stations is to maintain what we have.
That's
And we're
right.
not even, I mean,
Yeah.
they're not even having that.
Exactly.
Which is a lot where that 1 million kind of came into. What I was kind of imagining in the long run was, especially for the first 5 years, because that's when the tax assessment is done, is that we could get maybe the formula in place with the tax year after tax assessment. So that way, once it was done in 2024, we'd be ready for 2025. We would see what the numbers were. We could come to the commission and say, okay, we were getting $150 per, or 125, whatever it was, per $1 million of home values. I think maybe we could do 130, and then see what that number would come to. Or, hey, if you want us to be able to build this station, or, that kind of comes back to what does the county want as a plan? Do you want us to have everybody within 5 square miles? How many people do you want during the daytime? Do you want us to respond to medical calls? That would tell us what kind of cost you're wanting, the service you're wanting us to provide. Now I realize as a county commission at this moment, y'all don't really get involved with our day-to-day, and I'm not expecting that. But if you were to tell us what you expected in some cases, we could adapt to that.
Is it still suspended rules?
It is.
Yeah.
Okay. The $1 million, the biggest reason why we came it up at that dollar amount was by using that formula, we were able to get the department which I believe is Westmoreland, I can't swear to, but our goal was to make sure that everybody saw an increase even with the funding formula. So what we didn't want to happen was for us to get, say, 650,000, 680,000, and then have to figure out the best way to split it up evenly between all the departments, because you've got, like again, Shackle Island's got over $1 billion of improved property value, and then you have, say, Mitchell, who might have 100,000, obviously $1 million or whatever. So we were trying to get the Shackle Islands to where they got a big increase because they've got so many calls that they're running. But it's also not fair for us to give Shackle Island and Mitchell the same amount of money the way we've been doing. So the funding formula, the way it is, everybody gets somewhat of an increase. Some people get more, Shackle Island, number one, because they're covering so much more property value. And then for tax dollar wise, for commissioners, y'all can visualize that a lot easier than you can, hey, these departments just all need the same amount of money.
And all your departments is in agreement with that?
Yes, I believe
Yes, they all work.
they've been having a lot of fire chiefs meetings.
We have.
Good. What did y'all carry to the budget, Mr. Chairman?
What do we end up with budget?
I mean, what did y'all carry to the budget committee?
1,023,000.
And-
we ended up with 680.
Same thing you got the year before?
No, 450 is what we had gotten before. Forget my numbers. 325. Wait, I know you know this. 325 was go to 25,000 per station, and the additional 138 was separated into one-time capital that the fire chiefs got together and got to decide what to do with that money.
Okay.
We took a portion of that to pay for the radio fees that's incurred by the county, so pretty well you paid yourself. And then what was left of that, like 112,000, we would decide what to do. Most of the time, we would just split it. Here in the past couple of years, so every department would get an additional 10,000 per department, and so you ended up getting a little extra there.
Did you have something?
I think the law director.
Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
If I may, sir, I'm just looking at this from a legal aspect. I don't have a dog in this fight, but this keeps coming back around, and my concern is this. You do not, you all are not consolidated, correct?
No, we have 8 separate fire departments. that
Okay,
are-
if we've got a consolidated ask, I don't think the commission can just do a consolidated give under the guise of a promise that it's gonna be divvied up a certain way. I think the asks would have to come in individually. However you prorate it out, that's fine. Now, back to the incorporation, I do know certain nonprofits can be created to where any surplus, if the funds are being used for the purpose of the nonprofit, that you can still keep the nonprofit status, and that could be a consolidation tool for you if you choose to go down that route. But unfortunately, you're in a growing pain right now, and it's gonna cost some expenditure on your part to consult an attorney to navigate you through those waters, and maybe even a tax person to make sure it's done right. I think you've got a mechanism there. If you all want to be consolidated, I would entertain that, but I definitely would not encourage the commission to give based on a consolidated amount to be divvied out of the commission's hands.
Let me help you there. We don't, when I am giving the numbers, I'm giving it as consolidated, but if you look at the budget numbers, they are individually. The county writes a check to each department individually based on what either our recommendation was or theirs. For instance, the $138,000 one time, that is kind of lumped in one line item. We come back before the budget committee, for the HES committee. They take what we want to do with the money. If we say split it, they send that to budget. Budget says, okay, we'll take this one line item. It'll be split amongst the departments. It is voted on through budget, and then we each receive a check once we turn in receipts.
But
for
you
what
all
we
have a
spent it on.
consolidated plan in mind on how to distribute the money, because it's not gonna be equal, correct?
This year it will not be equal exact. No, actually, I think it is.
It's 200 staff.
Well, it is similarly. Like we're still getting per station, but it will be divvied out individually by the county because of a request.
The only thing I'm getting at here is that presenting a consolidated number, I think, is a good idea, but the breakdown of that consolidated number needs to be by department.
Yes, and it will be.
And then we contribute as the commission based on
Well, y'all
that.
did that, during.
Yes,
the way it
that's
Y'all
how
did
it's
that
been
through the
done.
budget.
Okay.
On your formula,
Mm-hmm.
it's 1.2 million?
It was 1,023,000.
Okay. Why don't you tell them how much that is per department?
I don't have it on me. I have to look it up.
Yeah, that's
I printed the wrong one. But even then,
Okay.
even with the way budget is done today and how it'll be after it is approved total, it will be broken up per department on the line
Yeah,
item.
it would be presented,
Yeah, matter of fact, it told.
grand total, and then each
Yeah,
department.
but it's easier for me when I'm talking to give round numbers.
I understand. I
When there
just
is 8
wanted
of
to
us.
be very clear on
And
that.
also, and I
Yeah.
wanted to point out too, the consolidation. I know we have talked about it, and it's not something we're totally against. I know my department would have a problem with it because we're dual county. But one thing that, just so it's understood, to consolidate 13 stations across this entire county, one of the reasons it's not the easiest, again, I know it's a growing pain, but for us, is because you're asking, we'll just say a fire chief of Cottontown, Mr. Joe. If Mr. McLaughlin takes command of all 13 stations, that's asking a man for free to control their entire budget, all the personnel. It puts a lot of stress on that man to be the one ultimately in charge of an entire county's worth, again, for free. Then you have your treasurers and secretaries who are dealing with smaller budgets and smaller corners to, again, take up $600,000 across an entire county in all this landmass that they're going to have to work and divvy up. Not that it couldn't be done, but for the current budget status, and even if we go to the subscription based, and it's going to do nothing but get more difficult.
Right. Administrative side.
It will be.
Each department has their own board of directors, does it not?
It does.
Okay.
Yes. Some of them are community boards, and some are run by the department
We would
itself.
have to probably dissolve, we would probably have to dissolve what departments there are and form another nonprofit.
Which I hate to tell you this part because you're not going to like it. Once you to establish a fire department in the state of Tennessee, it must be recognized by the county it serves. And at that point,
That's the problem we have right now.
that's what I'm saying. So we would have to, there's state law, there wouldn't be a fire department in this county if we all dissolved and became one nonprofit entity. We have to be recognized by the county we serve. Ever since 2005, that's been state law.
We're grandfathered in right now.
Right. And so anything new after 2005, it becomes
Yes.
a bigger issue.
As far as recognition, we are all recognized both by the county and the state.
Mhm.
As of 2003, it may have been before that, but the law looked at 2003, I think it was about then. Any fire department, whether it was a city fire department, for-profit fire department that operated in the state of Tennessee, had to be recognized by the state through the state fire marshal. State fire, and it's TCA code 68-102-301 that requires the recognition of the fire department. In that, the regulations were promulgated by the fire marshal's office as directed by this code, made it that every 3 years, triannually, the fire departments have to be resubmit for recognition by the state. The county, either the county or the city, the controlling authority, has to sign off that this fire department is recognized to provide fire protection in this district, and the county has to determine the area, working with the fire department every how, and currently the mayor, every 3 years, signs for each fire department to submit for recognition by the, continue their recognition by the state. So the county recognizes each fire department. So, yeah, those would have to be consolidated in one then,
Yeah.
and done that way.
That increases the liability to the county.
But,
So
Which
was-
there's nothing we're gonna do, it's gonna get liability off the county, the way we're doing this, 100%, I mean.
So was years ago, several years ago, maybe 12, 15 years ago, when we were trying to do something before, and I got shot down, and the county attorney told us that we could not recognize y'all as a fire department.
2012.
Hmm?
2012, I was there.
Yeah, and it happened in
Every year.
94 also.
Yes.
Yeah, so,
Yeah, but that's always been the line,
Yeah.
and that's fine, because there is a difference in recognition and not. The biggest thing being, from what I understand, and Mr. Wayne knows that you can tell a lot about this, is when you recognize the fire departments, you control the zone that is covered in this county. And then when you control the zone, if you decided in the county commission's wisdom that this line needed to move from Cottontown to Gallatin Community, then if something was to happen inside of that zone because it got moved, one station didn't respond or whatever caused a problem, then of course you can sue over anything, and it can always come back to the county
Right.
because you're in control of it. But again, there's nothing that can't be sued
and
about for
I think,
anything.
tell me if I'm right or wrong on this, I think that was the full intent of the law at the time, that once we recognize the fire service or fire departments, that does make us liable for anything that happens. Am I right on that?
It definitely opens the
Yeah.
door for us,
So-
yes.
Right.
That's why we wanted the contract the way that we did.
Yeah,
No,
There
but even the
releases
contract
liability.
wouldn't take away all liability. I mean, that's almost impossible to take away 100% of it.
Maybe not.
But
Well,
it'd take
I
a
will
while.
say this, I've been in this is my 43rd year on the fire department here in Sumner County. And with that, since 1997, we've been doing this in Robertson County. We've got 14 departments over there that operates under the contract, and we do the funding formula like this, and then they send us a check every month. I have to send in my fire report.
Right.
And make sure we've got insurance and all this stuff to the county. They send us a check monthly. I usually get it around the 15th. They pay me right now it's $24,000 a month, is what our funding is for Robertson County. And with all that being said, since 1997, the county's never been sued. We've had some departments been sued, but the county does not own any fire trucks or any property. And therefore, it's really hard for them to get sued in liability.
But all this was set up by CTASC of the state, and the whole purpose of it was, because they had the same concerns y'all did. They wanted as little liability as possible. They wanted to do it as a nonprofit donation, the same way y'all do, that way it also reduces liability. And they wanted a contract so that we could still be able to go buy fire trucks and stuff and show that we had income. So this contract, it reduces your liability, it keeps the donations at a conservative level. This, I'm sure everyone here can agree that $1 million, like we discussed, is not gonna take care of all the issues, but it'll at least get the funding somewhere. And then, of course, also the contracts, like I said, it'll keep the liability off of you as best as possible. So that's why we had this presentation the way we did it budget. I think that checks as many of the boxes as possible.
And just for comparison, I know you asked me last month about those numbers. I didn't have them with me. Those are different departments. One, the first couple pages of the TCA codes that allow us to do everything we're talking about doing. The second one, the numbers on the bottom are all the comparing to different counties based on population and based on dollar amounts. Just so y'all have a comparison.
And trust me, I do realize that it's cheaper to run a volunteer department than it is a paid service.
Much.
And we're not probably ever gonna, in probably my lifetime, I'm 64 years old and I've been here all my life, and I don't think I'll ever see it, but that we'll get to that point in this county where we can ever do that. The biggest problem is that we've got so much taxes coming in.
Absolutely.
About 87%, Mr. Young, correct me if I'm wrong, about 87% goes to the schools.
I don't think it's 87, I think it's fairly close, but it's probably about, it's getting there.
That leaves
No,
all the rest to go to the sheriff's department.
Of course.
And EMS is doing a real good job recouping a lot of their money. But that goes to taking care of the rest of the county. And giving y'all the scraps. It's a truth. Y'all are getting scraps every year.
I understand that.
And it's been that way. Yes, ma'am.
Well, I'll wait here.
No, go ahead, I'm done. Go ahead.
Goes to you. So, I went around and I visited a lot of the places. I didn't get everybody, but I did go. And I know that you get donations by having fundraisers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So the volunteer fire department, am I correct, is in the county, not in the cities, because the cities have their own fire department?
Correct.
So if we delegate money from the county, we're still delegating money that the cities, or the folks in the city are paying, because they pay both county and city.
Technically, yes.
Because I do as well in the city. So, I hate to ask you this, but can you pull the cities out and show what the counties are?
We technically can.
Try to show, because I would like to have that, because that would help people understand, it's collaborative. I mean, if Gallatin has a fire and it's pretty good, you guys are gonna show up to help out, I'm sure.
In some cases, yes, ma'am.
Yeah, but to show the cities pulled out, and then the county itself, because the people that live in the county who have these mansions and all this stuff, some of them are, you told me about a house that was way up on a hill, you couldn't even get to it. I mean, that's
We've got plenty of those too.
That's a little bit crazy to me, but and that's putting a burden on the city people that pay taxes. So is there any way to pull that out so we can show a comparison of what
A lot of that has to deal with just one, looking at the numbers, because of course you can make numbers you can do magical things. So I mean, we can pull it to where in there I think one of the pages, if I printed it off, it shows how much we're giving per citizen in the county area alone. So our county itself has over 200 and some odd thousand people, and about 66,000 is what my numbers. I think it's 70,000 now, but 66,000 people live in the county alone. Right now, we're giving about $6 per person. And the next closest one, I think, is giving $45 per person.
That was Murray.
Yes, ma'am. And so you can figure it per person. And when I figure, when I'm doing my budget and stuff for different things, I can show that money has to get pulled out of. The reason we're giving this so much more, this amount of money, even though it's coming from a major collections,
Right.
just like the cities, but it's like the city highway department. The county highway department. County highways is only going to county highways. And now, granted, they're getting money from the state, and they're getting money because citizens drive on those roads. But citizens in the cities don't always use the SO. They use the jails, but they don't use that. And so, to me, it's kind of the same thing. To where, yes, I know we're getting money out of a big bucket, which is funded by city taxpayers too. The only way that you can really split that out of there is, as far as I know, two ways, and Curtis will know way more about this than I do, is there is the fire tax, which would make, you would have to recognize this as a fire department, as, then up to the new way.
And that would raise our taxes up really good.
Well, in the county itself, in just the county citizens,
tax, yes.
they would have a tax bill that is only for them, which you can do it by the entire county, you can do it by each fire zone individually and set those prices. And those county citizens would need to pay that amount of money. The nice thing about that, and I know Mr. Manfield's going to hate me even discussing this, I can see it now, I can almost hear him fuming, is when you set that up, because we will get 100% return rate as long as people pay their taxes, you don't have to have it as much. Like if a subscription based is what we had to go, we'd have to charge $200 per home to get any kind of funding, because we know we're only going to get half or less return value. If you did that for all county citizens in all homes, just say you did $100 or $75. When you figure that amount, knowing it's going to be 100%, you don't have to charge nearly as much. And when you figure $75 a year to every home, I mean, that's less than a Netflix.
And you're talking about county,
subscription.
the whole county.
I'm talking about the county area alone, no cities.
No city, okay.
So if you lived in the city of White House, you would not pay a dime extra. But if you lived on Winding Way, which is outside of it, you would pay an extra $75 a year. The other one, which my brother loves to remind me of, is status base. Did I say that right? Status base, status?
No, but I'm gonna listen to you to figure out what you're talking about.
Where a type of funding that only the citizens in the county would pay, or that are not city residents, I believe, like hotel taxes and stuff, you can pull out of. Situs-based.
The hotel tax, stuff like that.
Yes, where the citizens that live in the city are not necessarily paying this particular tax, more in the county. Like if we had more commercial businesses in the county, you could have a special tax rate for them that would eventually go to pay for us. And again, this is not my specialty. That's a very rough conversation about it, but that gets us pretty close to only having that. But if you wanted to 100% only make sure that the rural areas paid for this, it would be the fire tax would be the answer.
My other question is, in the spirit of you looking into this,
Absolutely.
is to maybe send out a survey to the people that live in just the county areas
Mm-hmm.
and ask them if their interests, explain to them what you're looking for, and perhaps send a survey and say, we are looking at trying to get more money for our, because we serve you, give them the skinny on it. And then what would you prefer? If this came down to it, what would you prefer? Would you prefer like a subscription? I pay a subscription in Florida on my house in Florida. And I don't have a problem paying $500 a year for a subscription, so my house doesn't burn to the ground. Or they'll come out and take care of us when we're there, or if there's an emergency or something. But I think that people need to be, I don't think people are aware.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I witnessed when I made my tours, was I don't think people really are aware. And they don't understand the county fire departments versus the city a lot. Maybe more people do now, I don't know. But
I believe you're right.
Maybe if we did a survey of the folks that live in the community and say, hey, what would you be comfortable with? and bring that, and tally that, and bring that to the floor and say, this is what we got.
Yes, ma'am.
'Cause that says a lot.
I know you gotta leave at 6 o'clock, and I need to ask you this before you get gone.
I've got a comment as well, so
All
please
right,
do.
on the fire tax district, if they put that on a referendum,
That's exactly where I was gonna go.
everybody in the county gets to vote on it, right?
I don't,
Even in the city limits.
I think it's,
Municipalities.
I think it's
vote.
based on the people affected by the tax.
See, that's, we had that discussion one other time, and I believe everybody in the county actually gets to vote on it. I hope I'm wrong.
I'll be more than glad to get you an answer.
Yeah, we need to find out.
James County just did that, you may check with them, but they, their fire tax, the difference on theirs, the cities are also participating. Ashland City, Pegram, Kingston Springs, Pleasant View are all part of they receive fire tax money in Cheatham.
They just collect the tax money and separate it out from their normal budget. Just if White House was to get a normal budget of just say $2 million, but in this tax rate it raised $1 million, then they would just take the million and then supplement it with their normal budget. Is an example how Cheatham County works.
I just think that it's important to ask the citizens. Because,
Absolutely.
Because if you, and I know how I feel about increase in taxes, and trust me, I'm not one to do that to people, because there's a lot of people that barely can afford what they got.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we need to communicate with the communities and get some information back, and then look at it from there. I don't know. I mean, that's
Absolutely.
just my opinion.
I've
That is
talked
only
to
my
some-
opinion.
I've talked to some people in my fire district, unincorporated area, and their comments are, I'm already paying county taxes, I want fire protection.
They think they're already paying for
But
it.
they're
They
not,
think they're
their
paying.
money, it's not even a
That's where they
comparison.
And we communicate that, and I know our department, we do a
And I
mail
tell
out every
them,
year.
The state says the county does not have to provide fire protection. And
Right.
they say, that's crazy, I want fire protection.
That's 100% true.
And especially folks that are moving in here from California
Getting
or
phone
out west,
calls.
They don't understand.
And that goes back to what I asked the question I asked, because they're not gonna vote for it. They're not gonna vote for a fire tax unless you really spend a lot of money educating these folks.
Well, and that would have to be, and I know a lot of people too who are willing to participate. I even talked to a few county commissioners and citizens who are willing to do the fire tax, because it kind of takes a lot off of them.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know I've had people in our community that have said, well, I give $200 a year. We only ask for 65, I think, unless it went up.
They went up.
How much are we asking for now?
Our average return is probably $80.
$80.
But we ask for 75 a year.
Okay, so we ask for $75 a year, and we've had citizens, say, well, I know I always give a little bit more, but they know their neighbors don't.
Right.
And so it frustrates them that they are donating, but no one else is helping. And we get about a 50% return rate, I think, is our
And
normal.
that's really good for a volunteer.
That's on the high end. Normally, a national average is 25 to 40.
There's
We've been doing
probably,
it since the 80s though. We
there's
sit down
probably
there.
30 homes on my street. And I live in the county, and out of that 30, I can only think of maybe 3 that would be all in for a fire tax.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd be one of the 3, but
You know who will be though? If it is a citywide thing, the city citizens would be. Because they would know that their tax dollars are not going to fund the
yeah,
county.
but then that goes back to the money that you're gonna have to spend to educate these people, let them know that this is not gonna affect you monetarily if you
Right.
live in the city.
That's what it all comes down to, is
Yeah.
we don't have the budget to do the education that we need to do.
Well, let me tell you-
It's hard. I mean, we try to market our department, but it's really hard to.
It's not the budget.
It's not the same.
It's the time and
Yeah.
manpower.
And that has a lot to do with it too.
I mean, I know a lot of people like to be on social media, and you can do FaceTime videos, where you stand in front of your fire department, and even if you did it every now and then, you could get a lot of communication from that. They might tell you to go fly a kite. But, I think it's good to get the information ahead of it.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I personally think standing in front of your fire department with your equipment and your folks and saying, hey, we're in a quagmire here, we're looking at needing funding, and we're looking at how to do it, and we would really like y'all's opinion. And if you could just a comment, no harassment, just a comment about what you would think would be good. I would think that would go a long way to just kind of get people indoctrinated into the idea that maybe something's coming. I mean, I just think throwing something at them and hitting them in the face with it, that just puts a bad taste in it.
Absolutely, and I know it's gonna take a couple of years probably to even get to that point. And I have no problem doing all the education in the world.
I don't think a fire tax would ever fly right now.
Well, it'd definitely be hard, but like you said, I think with education it could help. But that's also why I kind of put the formula together. Why we asked for the $1 million is because we're trying to get ourselves out of the hole that we're in.
So you did get more money this time.
We did. We got about $200,000 extra, including an extra $230,000. Because they also gave us enough money to pay for radio fees.
And what about grants? I mean, we actually have a wonderful grant writer here at the county. You guys do a lot of grant writing, or?
Yes, we've all benefited from grants, and to be honest with you, the only reason most of us are still alive today in the fire service is because of grants.
Okay.
You've gotten a bunch of equipment in Sumner County because of fire grants.
Absolutely.
Say 90%.
We tried to use your grant writer, we were told we couldn't get him to do it for free, but we have reached out and tried to do that. We would love that access if possible.
If he, I don't know what he charges, but I tell you what,
We can't afford
he
it.
can look at something and go, I can get you this grant.
Yes,
Well,
ma'am.
Hey, I appreciate, I just want to say before everybody leaves that I appreciate y'all getting together. The issue will be if we don't get some kind of funding, what is happening in parts of the state of Tennessee right now. Fire departments are closing or they're not getting their ISO rating. And we've got a local fire department real close here that just lost their ISO rating, Insurance Services Organization. If one being the best, which I think Gallatin's a 1 or 2 up here, and then 10 being the worst, or not getting rated at all. And the difference is, there's people paying that went from $800 to $1,000 a month insurance or year insurance premiums. Some of them now, they can't even get insurance, can't get a mortgage. I know one guy, his went up to $5,800 a year.
Mine is,
From
went
$1,200.
up almost 200%.
So that's a savings, you know.
Well, I live in the
The
city,
lower
though.
our rating, the lower our rating is, the cheaper your homeowner's
Right.
insurance that everybody has to pay.
I get it, I deal with
Yeah, you
ISO
know,
every year.
Yes, sir.
Gallatin's has just went down to a 2, so,
Oh, that's wonderful.
but, that's a big thing for people, saving
It is.
money.
So, in my opinion, maybe the next meeting, maybe we could be some, thinking on y'all's part, maybe to kind of think about what we've talked about, and maybe look at, I mean, I don't mind sticking something on Facebook. I don't like social media, 'cause people are mean on there. But I think that if we put out a message, hey, facing what we are in the county with the fire departments, what would how would y'all, what are your thoughts about contributing? I mean, just something like that. I mean, I don't have a problem, but I think that it needs to come from the fire departments, because some of them I don't ever like to play.
Right.
Think back.
Well, do we see a path forward is the biggest thing to where we can grow as a community? Because you mentioned about you're not going to, you won't see a full-time fire department in Sumner County before in your lifetime. I'll tell you, if you don't, you won't have a fire department, period.
Agreed.
It is, and
Agreed.
so that's where we're kind of at too, is I will do all the legwork that's requested of me. It's literally my job every day, and do the surveys. But I also would like to be able to come back here and say, okay, here's what we would see in the county in a perfect world in a 2, 5, and 10-year plan down the road. We'd like to see, certain things happen, and we can figure out how to get there
The reason
too.
why y'all been kicked down the road so many years is because every 4 years, this place changes.
It does.
Every 4 years, regardless of what anybody wants to claim. It's gonna change.
Right. So,
There's gonna be a lot of people,
that's a good
before
point.
2 years from now, that's not gonna be here now.
Right.
That's
So,
right.
Anyway,
It's a good point, and so,
Yeah.
have you, in my and I'm thinking like,
Well,
so you have a fire marshal who is over the state, and
Yes.
he's the person that is like over you guys and says this isn't it.
kinda,
Yeah.
he technically is, but we'd
Do you
like to
work
talk
with
to
the
him.
Who is he?
governor at all? I mean,
I don't even know who he is.
Is that,
We don't have one right this minute.
Yeah.
He just retired.
what is that guy's name?
well, the question, because there's,
Sheriff's
you know, a
Department.
lot of,
Brad Riley.
nonprofits
County.
lobby
We don't have a fire marshal.
the state
Well,
and
doing
legislature
fire
and the
investigations and
governor and
stuff.
all that. Has there been any lobby involved with money?
Right.
No.
And we, there are,
He's wanting to be.
the gentleman at CTASC I talked to today, I wrote down his name and I don't have, oh yeah, dude, right here. Alex, Mark Alley, sorry. He is the CTASC guy who he does fire, that's his whole job. And he said every day he's in meetings with counties all over Tennessee, he's in the mayoral meetings, he's on Capitol Hill. He is always trying to push forward legislation. But one of our problems is right now is Tennessee just doesn't have any. They don't have any that protects us, and protect you, and just like everything, we talked to me today, he said, you know, the wheels up here move slow. He's and that's his whole full-time job is to be our advocate there, and there's the volunteer fire department council that works with us, and there's a lot of agencies that are working at a state and national level. Now, we work underneath the fire marshal, he's the guy who does everything, but it's just like how this county technically works under the president, you know, it ain't like we ever talk to him. Some things may get passed down from time to time, but we don't see them. Now, there is a position that is available that the county can create. That's a fire marshal for the county. Now, I don't know if anybody ever be interested in that, but it's a TCA protected position that their whole job is to work with volunteer fire departments and to help plan things out for the future, which is something we could probably look at in the future. And it's a representative that would work for the county that helps wrangle the fire departments and doesn't run their fire departments, they don't report to them, but it's kind of like a liaison position. That would may be interesting in the future.
That would not add liability to the county.
It would cause the county to do other things than just go out and hire a guy and say, you're a fire marshal. They have to adopt the fire codes, and they have to adopt, there's a lot of other things you gotta do than just say, we wanna hire a fire marshal.
Most of them do training and retention and recruitment for
Exactly.
volunteer departments.
They don't have to do building and codes.
Yeah. You had something else, I'm sorry. And then we need to probably,
One, I'm gonna back up a little ways when we're talking about per person. I looked at it the other day, so if you look at partials, because we talked about what the city residents are paying. If you look at the number of partials in the current 24 appraisal that's been done, and divide that into the 650,000 that we're getting this year, that comes out to, this is countywide, everybody in the city, countywide, about $4, between $4 and $5 per partial, so per residence. Now, looking at, most residents, that's gonna be less than that. So it's one of those, we talk about saving the city residents money, we're talking about $4 or $5 annually for their house, if they didn't pay, if the cities didn't pay for the fire protection.
And if they're on a county road, the city's not coming.
So, but point I'm getting is it's not $100, it's not $50, it's a small amount of money, and the cities, they probably won't even see that, because they'll shove that money somewhere else. But, that's about what it comes out, like I said, that's just an average. So some people pay more, but the average is about, at the current rating, about between $4 and $5. If we went to the million,
It'd be 7 or 8.
so it's up about 10, but it's about per partial, average.
what, let's see, we got White House here today, Westmoreland, Cottontown, and Shackle Island, right? Any other?
Oak Grove.
Oak Grove.
And
They're here?
Yes,
Oak Grove?
Oak Grove's right here.
There you
That's
are.
Mr. Wayne.
I'm sorry.
And Highland is back there as well.
Can you introduce yourselves so I know who you are?
Sure, I'm Ron Wills, Shackle Island Fire.
Mark Jenkins, Westmore.
Corey Young with Highland Fire Department.
Joe Williams, White House Community.
Curtis Williams, not on a fire department.
Joe McLaughlin, Cottontown.
Hannah Young, Highland.
Wayne Drown, Oak Grove.
Thank you.
Y'all, we thank y'all for coming today, and Mr. Nunn, what was it you request them to bring back to us the next
The
time?
survey.
The survey.
Kind of think about it and see what
Yeah.
you can come up with.
Sure.
You can do that on Survey Monkey, send it out.
Yeah.
You can actually do it on Facebook, and it'll collaborate all that. Survey Monkey's a good one. I used to do that when I taught school and had
Mhm.
students do that.
Sure. We can give it a shot and see what we'll come up with.
Yeah, I think it would be great to have that data.
Absolutely.
Does anybody else have anything else before I entertain a motion?
I have a motion
Next
to
meeting.
adjourn.
We don't need
Wait a
to.
minute, wait a minute, wait a minute.
Not
No,
to
turn
be
it.
picky, we've been at it,
Gotta bring it back to the
bring
meeting.
Okay.
us back in.
We're back in session.
Okay.
One more thing, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Was the law director gonna bring back the option if we could send out, if the taxes could be separated from incorporated and unincorporated?
You're talking about the referendum?
Yes.
Yes.
Is that possible? You
Yes.
can look into that for the next
I'll
one.
Good.
email the committee.
Okay.
One thing I'll say before we adjourn is one thing that Mr. Hyde brought up
Mhm.
last month was talking about how Hendersonville Fire Department started off as a volunteer police force and fire department. It was all in one
Mhm.
back when he moved in to Hendersonville years and years ago, of course. And then they eventually got to where they are. I just looked it up quickly this morning. Hendersonville in 1975 is when they became a full-time paid fire department. They had a population of about 20,000 people. Today they have 7 stations and I forget how many firefighters, but it's a bunch. That's one of the most biggest fire departments in the state for their size. They've got a population of about 70,000 people right now, which is the same population that we're at. Now, it's not as densely populated, but to get we have the same amount of population. We have triple the amount of population in the county area now than Hendersonville did when they went full-time and decided their citizens deserved full-time fire coverage. So when I'm asking to look at increasing our funding here for the county area, I just really believe in my heart that those citizens that live in this county, that all 60 or 70,000 of them, they think they have a full-time fire department, and I think they deserve a coverage that can give them what they need. That if they have a structure fire at 8 o'clock in the morning, that they know people are going to show up. And sometimes with the amount of funding we have, we don't always know the trucks are going to start. And so I worry about this county and the people that are in it, and I just want as much help as to get them
Put that in your
there.
survey,
Yeah.
what you just said.
How many people actually do know if they have a,
Yeah, that's
do they know they're
question.
served by volunteers?
Are you like you said, in your survey, you have the pick, I think I am, and have that question, I think I am a county or a volunteer or I think I am a city,
Mhm.
and let them pick that. That way you can see how much knowledge they have about it so that, you're targeting that.
The only problem with that is the people who see our Facebook pages know we're a fire department. The people who don't see us are the ones that don't have a clue.
And how you gonna filter out who actually lives in the county and who doesn't?
You can
That'd
ask
be one of the questions.
Yeah.
You ask them if they live in the city or county, and when you look at the results, you can filter them out.
Okay.
There's a way to do it. I just don't know how much return, but you know what? You want us to try anything, I'll try anything once.
I just think it's important because I've been an educator, and I think if you don't educate people that don't know, they're gonna be ignorant.
All I ask is that if you see a survey monkey out there next few days, you just share it.
I'll
We can do
definitely
it.
share
Please
I
do.
have to go up into them to do it, so
We had
I'll try.
Mr. Nunn made a motion to adjourn.
I second it, or John Michael does.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you again. This is wonderful.